we are again, TSL Podcast. I'm with Greg Swann. Why do I always mess this up? I'm supposed to do introductions and be good at it, but man, what is up? Self-Adoration. Tell us about yourself.
Howdy, my name is Greg Swann. I run a site called Self-Adoration.com. I wrote a book called Man Alive, a survival manual for the human mind, and I've been, for the last 2 years, desperately trying to get an inbound link. So anybody out there who wants to say, hey, I found out about something that nobody else knows about, good God, please do. In any case, what Man Alive is about describing the ontology, the nature of the self, of your own self-image, the idea of your life that you start to work on really before you're born, but you're working on it the whole time that you're a toddler. When you graduate into human consciousness, when you develop the thing that we call self-awareness, introspective self-consciousness, you're 4 or 5 years old when you get really good at that. I call that the birth of father tongue in your mind, and that really is the birth of yourself. That's the point at which it becomes an idea that you can identify, that you understand as being a distinct and separate idea. And frankly, it's the most important idea in your life. It's the idea that you are acting upon whenever you're doing anything else, and especially when you're doing nothing. 90% of everything that you will do in your life, more than 90% of everything that you will do in your life occurs inside your cranium, in that introspective self-consciousness, in that internal dialogue that you have going on whenever you're awake. If you're asleep or unconscious, this may not be happening, but otherwise you are talking to yourself all the time. And that conversation with yourself is really the most important relationship that you have in your life. And the way that you act upon yourself will affect the way that you see yourself now and in the future. And therefore, my argument is the way to have the best, most adorable, most lovable, most admirable, most happy life, most splendorous life is to choose admirably at every inflection point. Every time that you have to make a choice, choose in the way that's going to leave you feeling the greatest admiration for yourself, both in the instant moment and thereafter, because everything you do will come back to you in your memories. And if you do shitty things, you're going to have a shitty life. If you do glorious things, you're going to have a glorious life. And so my question for everyone, really frankly, is why not choose admirably all the time? Why not pursue that glory, pursue that splendor all the time? And that's really what I'm all about. Can I continue?
Oh, please do. Please do. Yeah,
This is
yeah.
one of the things that
I dig it.
Anthony Dream Johnson has made a couple of videos with me, and one was an interview that we made in Orlando this summer, and they were remarking in editing that I can go on for 10 or 12 minutes at a time.
I don't
to talk to the people who listen to you is because I think a huge part of self-adoration consists of the way that you manage your romantic life, your marriage, your family life, your relationship with your spouse. And I know that I'm talking to a lot of guys right now, but if I'm talking to women, it works the same way. It's all the same stuff. The way that you manage your romantic relationships is really going to affect the way that your future plays out. The story of your life is under your control. You are in complete control of your destiny. And the choices that you make today are going to revisit themselves to you forever. And so my argument is that a big, huge part of your life is family life. And if you manage your family life admirably, you will have a wonderful home life. You'll be married forever. This is one of the things that I like to talk to guys about, is how to be married forever. I mean, how to be married for the rest of the day. Yeah, that's a challenge just by itself. But how can you do it so well today that you're doing it that well again tomorrow and the day after, that you do it well every day, and therefore you're married forever?
Man, it's funny because I just did a podcast with Mark Tobre, who's a fitness guy. He spoke at the 21 convention in Melbourne, and that's actually how we know each other. I don't know enough about you. I know that I like everything that I hear, but we're connected through Anthony Johnson, and you actually married him, which is cool. I mean,
Anthony and I are married now. The first gay marriage in Nevada. No, I was the officiant at Anthony's marriage. Just this February 2nd, so just this month, Steve was in Las Vegas. A whole bunch of people were in Las Vegas, but Steve was the master of ceremonies for this wedding, and I was the officiant. I was the rent-a-priest.
Well, you got to have some cred for that, and it's a pretty special thing. I mean,
Oh, it's wonderful.
it's everybody I know that gets married finds it very important the person who marries them or gives a little speech or whatever, even if they're atheist or whatever, and they have to get some, I don't know, whoever to do it. I know it's always important what's said, but that all being said, how I know you is through all that scene, which is always a good thing. I mean, Anthony's like one of the greatest. We've talked about this, one of the greatest people I know, and just does so many awesome things, and is the standard, in my opinion, for integrity. And I'm like 10 years older than the guy or something. But I interviewed Mark last night, and it's awesome because he's talking about training and fitness, and he says that it's kind of like how you do one thing is how you do everything. And he actually broke it down to there's 7 things in his life that he's got to focus on and find the right mentors for. But when it came to being a healthy person, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I believe in the same thing, and I think I'm hearing the same thing from you. When it comes to be a healthy person, let's say you're looking at sex. Let's say you're looking at relationships. Let's say you're looking at personal health, all that sort of stuff. You're going to have to come into an honest relationship with yourself and have values that you live by. And usually you're going to have values that you live by with other people. And that is a beautiful thing. I think that anybody can have whatever type of sex life they want. But if you are having, actually, Mark broke this down really well, but if you're having, watch that podcast. But if you're having a sex life that's purely superficial, or you're having a podcast that's purely superficial, or whatever, stuff that you don't care about, right, you're not going to have motivation. You're not going to have anything. You're not going to be invested, and you're losing the greatest thing that a human being has to offer, which is your expression. And people don't look at that enough. And what I think is so important with you is, I mean, you talk to everybody. And I don't want to limit it to just saying you have a message for men, but you have a clear message for men of any age range of, hey, which way should we go? What's important to you? Where do you see, like, I mean, you're pretty familiar with Anthony's stuff, but, even guys who attended the 21 convention, where do you see guys today where they really need help?
Frankly, the one thing I would pick would be the relationship with women, and really ultimately the father relationship, that you're a young man, you're dating, you're chasing the pussy or whatever. Eventually you're going to say, will you marry me? Look at that stuff.
Dude, this is crazy. My Maria made it for me. No, this is we juice like mountains of green stuff. But the problem with this one is it's mustard greens, and so that's some intense stuff, man. It burns. It's like drinking mustard, right? But it's like kale, mustard greens, parsley. And we broke some rules. We cut it with some lime. Not supposed to mix fruit with vegetables in the juice.
You should put some white tequila in there. You get enough.
You could, man. You could. Yeah.
It'll taste great.
Yeah. But go. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's totally okay. It's cool. No, that, dating, marriage, family, but especially fatherhood, and where I would say that all of the roles that guys are taking in their romantic relationships, really practically speaking, after engagement, they're dropping the ball. And in dropping the ball, they're really throwing away everything they've been fighting for. That when a romantic relationship starts, you meet the girl, she doesn't meet you. You meet the girl, even if she thinks that she arranged the meeting. Nothing happened until you noticed her. And as soon as you noticed her, then all of a sudden you were on your game. You were trying to get that phone number. You're trying to get a date. You're trying to go out. You're trying to get to first base, second base. You're trying to score. You are driving this. The guy is driving this relationship. The male is driving this relationship. And everything that happens in that romantic relationship until engagement, until marriage, or until sometime relatively soon after marriage, the guy is going to be driving everything. He's going to be the driver in that relationship. And then at some point, he lets go of the wheel. He decides to lose control, to leave, to stop driving. He decides to stop driving. The problem with that is that, as with male and female dogs, in male and female romantic relationships, the male is dominant. He is sexually dominant. It doesn't mean he's a dictator, but it does mean that he is the driver. He is the one who's going to say, no, we're going to do this instead of that. No, we're going to live on the other side of the hill because the sunlight is better and we'll have a better farm there. This is what the man does in a relationship, and it doesn't matter what time of history or what socioeconomic level people have achieved. I mean, we live in a very modern world. Nobody has to move to the other side of the hill to get better sunlight now, not in the United States, but the father still has to be dominant in that relationship. And if he lets go of that dominance, if he stops driving that marriage, so he sits back in his easy chair and takes a snooze or watches the ball game or just drinks beer after beer after beer. He's not committed. He doesn't offer anything. He doesn't move the relationship, but he also doesn't permit it to be moved. He's basically an anchor on that relationship because she cannot, it's Dusty, she cannot be the leader of that relationship. She cannot dominate him. Not for long and not well. She can do it by screaming or throwing tantrums or giving ultimatums, but in the long run, it won't work. I mean, natural leadership doesn't work that way. Natural leadership says, we're going to do this, and everybody says, hop to it. We're going to do that. If he has to yell at her to get things done, it's not working, but that's not the way a marriage works. He doesn't have to do that when he's driving the relationship. All he has to do is keep driving, and she'll go where he goes. But she can't do that. She can't drive him. And so if he's not willing to assert that moral leadership in the marriage, it's going to fail. They may stay married for 50 years, but the marriage is not going to work. It's not going to be that kind of happy marriage. I like what you said about the interview you did last night about having 7 priorities. This is the way that people who get things done is by putting things in priority. And as far as I'm concerned, your number 1 priority is yourself, but your number 2 priority is going to be your family, is going to be your spouse, your children, your extended family after that, your friends after that, your job, your hobbies or things like that, your intellectual avocations, all of those things are going to be fairly down on the list. But once you get to item number 7, if item number 7 is not something deeply important to you, there are only 6 things on your list. And if item number 6 is not deeply important to you, there are only 5 things on your list. The things that matter to you are your values, and everything else is just noise. It's just snow. It's just debris. It's just stuff. It's just there. And we spend all of our time listening to people tell us to focus on this or focus on that, and worry about this or worry about that, worry about things that you don't really worry about, and that you don't do anything about it. And one way you have of knowing if you really care about something is look at what you're doing. If you're not doing anything, you don't care. If all you're doing is bitching, you don't care. If all you're doing is worrying, you don't care. If all you're doing is nothing, you don't care. And the things that you care about are the things that you're doing something about. And the things that you're doing something about, you should be dancing. That when you're doing them, they should be delightful to you. And anything that you're doing that isn't delightful to you, you should either stop doing it or figure out why. But if it's not delightful, if it's burdensome to you, if it's hateful to you, if it makes you hate your life, don't do it. The things that make you love your life, that make you do this and you feel like you're literally dancing, that you're, even if you're just sweeping the kitchen floor, but you're dancing your way through it like Cinderella, because you're happy to be alive and you know you're advancing your values. You know that you're moving the ball down the field, that you're advancing your true values. And if you concern yourself with that, if you do things that way, your life will work. But in your marriage, it's the same way. That why did you chase her in the first place? Why did you chase her so avidly in the first place? And why aren't you chasing her now? If she's everything that you loved and wanted, if she's still that person, if she's everything that you ever loved and needed, then you need to be chasing her all the time, because she's a value to you all the time. If she's a value to you, then you should be chasing her. You should be pursuing her. You should pursue your values. And chasing your wife into the bedroom is one of the ideal ways of doing that, as far as I'm concerned.
You're a true poet, true poet.
Thank
I think
you.
that's one thing everybody needs to know is whenever you talk, it's like this rhythm that goes and moves all around, and it's good. It's the way
I
you
mean,
express yourself. It's the way you connect, and it's a way that it's your self-adoration. You
that's
can
what
see
it
it.
is, and I'm not doing anything else, and that's the deal. Is that anything that I'm doing, I'm not doing anything else. But when I'm doing this, when I'm talking to people, I want to get into their brains. I want to get in there forever, and so I want to say things memorably. I talked about this with Anthony and Marilee at the wedding. I keep saying that I'm hauling marriage back from the abyss. That my job in doing this wedding and all the things that I've written about marriage over the last year, as a result of being involved in this wedding, I keep saying I'm hauling marriage back from the abyss. I could say, well, I'm trying to fix marriage. I'm trying to help married people get along better. I'm trying to find a way to help people discover what's missing from their marriages. All the mealy mouth crap that you hear all the time, all of the academic word salad that people are constantly spewing, and nobody listens and nobody remembers and nobody cares. I'm hauling marriage back from the abyss. Let's be poetic about it, because the path to true values is paved in poetry. This is another thing I would say to men, is that the path to all of your values as a male, the path to all of your values is paved in poetry. Once more unto the breach, we few, we happy few. Roses are red, violets are blue. If you'll come across, I'll marry you.
Good stuff. I feel like I want to clap.
And this is like, what is it when dad is saying to mom and the kids, when dad is saying, you know what, when we laid out this farm, we thought we were doing the wrong thing, but since then I've decided we've made a mistake and we really need to pull up stakes and move to the other side of the hill. And when he does that, he has to convince her the worst thing in the world for her is change. If you really want to understand women, if you really want to understand wives in any case, understand that what she wants is to know for sure that her world is secure. A woman is a woman when she builds a home, and a man is a man when he takes a wife. But a woman does not want her home to be uprooted. She doesn't want anything to change. And so when he's trying to convince her that they have to move to the other side of the hill, he does it with poetry. But the most important poetry that a man speaks is unspoken. This is a language called mother tongue. All organisms, all living things, to the extent that they communicate in mother tongue, in bodily signaling, hand waving. And when we think of it in terms of smiles and grimaces and body language. But human beings communicate in father tongue also, which is what I'm doing now. All of these words that I'm spewing out is father tongue, is notation systems. But the most important poetry that a father can speak to his family is to stand at the hearth with, his elbow on the hearth, and he's got a drink in his other hand, and he's standing there in complete confidence. And the expression on his face says, there is not a thing wrong in the world, and I am in complete control. And that's the most important poetry a father can speak to his wife, to let her know that everything's all right, but also to his children, who really don't know whether they're safe or not. And the only way they have of knowing is the messages they get from their parents. And the most important message in the family is the one that dad gives when he's standing there calmly at the hearth, looking like there could not possibly be anything wrong anywhere. Dad driving in the car late at night, mom's sleeping in the passenger seat, the kids are sleeping in the back seat, and little Sally wakes up and she leans forward and she sees dad driving there, and there's only the dashboard lights to light his face. She can barely see him, but she sees that look of confidence on his face, and she knows that everything's okay. And that's poetry, and that's fatherhood, and that's leadership, and that's what dads aren't doing, and that's why their world is fucked up.
Well, let me get into a few things here, because you said so many things, but let me take a step back, because
Okay.
one thing, in fact, one of the reasons why I wanted you on the podcast is because you speak in a lot of definitions and absolutes, and it could probably piss some people off. And what I believe, being of the sexual life and that philosophy, is that connection is key. The more people communicate and interact, the less they're going to see a division. And so many people in this world are so obsessed with the disconnect. Oh, he said that men do this. Oh, he said women are supposed to do this, or whatever. It's not I mean, that sort of divide isn't what's happening. You know, we all want to be this one. We all want to be this one of things, whether that's love, relationships, you know, one with the room I'm in, all that sort of stuff. But we then notice the differences, and that difference gives us our uniqueness. It gives us our movement. It gives us our relationship, the push pull. You know, the stuff that happens, our individuality. But when people communicate, they own their individuality too much, and I honestly think it's because they don't know who the fuck they are, so then they join some cause or some opinion. But when you're talking about men and women, let's start there because I know it'll go off to all sorts of crazy stuff. What are, I mean, what are the roles a man is missing, and how can that be adapted? Because I think when they, I like that cat. Woo! It
Yeah.
looks like she's on your shoulder, but
It's
walking
yeah.
across in the background. But the thing is that people, you know, when they see an absolute, they argue an absolute. All right, and fight about like, well, what men are supposed to do, what women are supposed to do, and they stop relating. They stop coming back to that one. They stop. You know, appreciating and respecting each other. And I know you talked about it, but what are men missing? You know, what is it that what are some things that they can do, and maybe what's the end goal of it? You know, like for me, the end goal is for people to unite and connect and be brought back to that oneness, but they have to respect their individuality first.
I I think it, men are not losing anything; they're surrendering everything. Matt Walsh had an article this week, and I didn't really read much of it, but the gist of the post was that men are entitled to respect, women are entitled to respect, and nobody disputes that. But men are also entitled to respect. Well, here's the deal: if you go around telling people that you're entitled to
Totally.
respect, you're not.
Yeah.
Not that anything. Anytime if I have to tell you that you owe me money, you don't.
Yeah.
You know, you might really owe it to me, but the debt doesn't exist anymore as far as you're concerned. If I have to keep reminding you that you owe me respect, you don't owe me respect. You don't owe
Mm.
me anything. I'm a schlub to you. I'm a doormat to you. And men don't get respect because they are owed it. They get respect because they earn it.
Mm-hmm.
The way that they earn it is by taking charge. A man's job is to take charge. A man's job in his family is to take charge. And again, it doesn't mean dictatorially. It doesn't mean yelling and screaming. If you're yelling and screaming, you're not the leader.
Mm-hmm.
If you have two dogs fighting, neither one of them is dominant. That's what it means that they're fighting. They're competing for dominance. And if they're repeatedly fighting, they haven't settled the issue of who is dominant. And if a man is having to scream at his wife or scream at his children, he is not dominant in that relationship. There's something screwed up about it. But if you want to judge whether or not you are even in a position to assume leadership in your marriage, step up behind your wife wherever you find her. You find her standing someplace, you just step up behind her and put your hands on her hip and put your mouth at her neck, the back of her head. You make your move whichever way you're going to make it. Eventually, you've got one hand at her throat and one hand at the back of her head, and you're turning her head back to you. And you are kissing her. And if her knees give out, you're in a leadership position. If you don't feel confident that you could do that, if you feel unsafe, if you feel afraid, if you feel that your relationship is not strong enough that you could do that, that you easily could have done it when you were 3 months together, that would have been nothing to you. That would have been the
Mm.
most common thing in the world to you. When you were 9 months together, when you were newly married, that would have been nothing to you. It would have been the most common thing in the world. You would have done it 5 times a day. If you don't feel confident that you can do that now, that's a problem. You are not in that leadership role in your marriage, and you need to take it back. And that literally is the case. All you have to do is take it back because you relinquished it. You surrendered it. You gave it up. All you have to do is take it back. If you screwed things up so much that it's already broken, that she's already talking to either her divorce lawyer or her divorce counselors, her girlfriends, or female relatives who tell her all about the wonders of divorce, you're probably already screwed. But if it's not that far along, all you have to do is go back to driving that relationship. You just take her from behind, turn her around, pick her up, take her to the bedroom, rekindle your romance. I mean, whatever. You may have to work a long way before you can get to that point, but you can retake this control of your relationship because you were driving it from the first place, and it's yours. It doesn't exist without you. It's like your store or your business, your shop, your office. The other people are there. Yes, they're there, and they're very much participants, and they're very important. They're vital to the organization, but without you, it's nothing. And even if you continue to come to work every day, if you're not really driving that business, if you're not driving that organization, it's not going anywhere. It's just stalled, and eventually it's going to wreck. But all you have to do is take it back. And I think that's true of men at every place in society, starting at age 6 when they let school teachers hector them into sitting down, shutting up, and not being boys. This is all male power that men are voluntarily surrendering, and if they want it back, all they have to do is take it back. Yeah, nobody treats me with disrespect. Nobody treats you with disrespect, Steve. Nobody does.
It's funny. I read that article just before this, and it's weird. I have like this. I've never been a good reader. I've written so much stuff, and I'm like, really bad grammar, all that sort of stuff. A lot of dyslexia action, but I was actually listening to my phone read it to me, Siri read it to me, but I didn't get through it all, and it was just like I'm too much of a contrarian all the time. I'll look at the differences. I look for the disconnect rather than the connect, which is a fault of mine. One of those key principles of what we believe in, or what I believe in, and what my group and all that sort of stuff, everybody at TSL believes in, is that connection is key. And I screw it up just as much as the next. But it was like, man, the moment we define what respect is supposed to be, the moment we'll screw it all up. And, you brought up some stuff about like how you have your way of relating with women or your wife, and, how to show her that caring and affection. But what's interesting to me is I think that changes over time. It's such a crazy thing. And I've had so many bad relationships and screwed up, many. I mean, sadly, the great things about me coaching is the amount of experience that I've had. And if I'm not with that person anymore, then it didn't work. Something about that I did wrong, and some were major mistakes. But in that, what I realized was, stuff changes. And when I was being so hypersexual, and not that that's bad, I think that that's a great thing. You just got to own it and be responsible for it and all that sort of stuff. But, people get so caught up about sex, and the shame with it that it's hard for them to think that they can be responsible for it. But in any case, when I was doing that, I wasn't really, I was depending on it too much. Like men feel a lot of emotion during sex, or at least I did. I would get like so wrapped up into it. So I'd have these like 3, 4 month, 5 month relationships that were only sexually communicative. And then the rest of it was out of balance, the mentality, the emotion, and all that sort of stuff. And, it's funny, and maybe not so funny. It's actually totally bizarre because I wanted this before, but this is the first time in like 13 or 14 years that I've been monogamous. And I wanted that about 5 years ago, about actually more than that, 5 or 6 years ago. I wanted that, but I wasn't capable of it because I wasn't having a good enough relationship with myself. So it's kind of it's a weird thing that for me, the last, just under 2 years, I've been with one person, and the difference of intimacy, the difference of affection, the difference of communication changes. It has different. It's the same thing. It's kind of like your passion, your purpose. It just takes on different phases throughout your life. I no longer want to be a ninja like I did when I was 5, and now I want to do other things that might be more insane than that. But yeah, it's just that flavor of it changes.
Well, the real deal, I could tell you just by looking at your photos on Facebook that Maria, I'm not going to tell you it's going to last forever. I hope for your sake it does, but and for hers and for your baby's sake. But not knowing anything at all about the other women that you were with, I see pictures of you walking your dogs with her, doing things with her.
Mm-hmm.
That when you are involved in a sexual relationship with a woman, it is going out and having sex. That's all there is.
Mm-hmm.
And there isn't any shopping together, dog walking together, taking trips together. Hey, listen, I got to run some errands. You want to come with me? You have no reason at all to come with me. You have there's no benefit to you at all. We're just wasting your time. We're taking twice as much of our shared labor as necessary to do this. I just want to have you along. I love having you in the car with me. So if you got the time, I'd love to have you with me. These are the relationships that last. And those are the relationships that are a lot like friendship. And this is what I was talking about. If you go and read the wedding ceremony that I did for Anthony and Marilee, I talk a lot about storgic love, which is very different from a romantic love. Romantic love is, again, I like to think about dogs. I love to think about dogs.
That's right.
Let dogs around. Dogs are my laboratory. When you think about the storgic love of dogs, like the love of a mother dog for her pups, a bitch for her pups, or the love that the dog has for the pack, including all the other dogs, but all the people in the pack too. In our house, cats too. The dogs think the cats are part of the pack, and they just don't get it, but it's part of their deal. That's storgic love. If you think about sexual love for dogs, it's completely radically different, and it's so frenzied, and then it's over. The dog doesn't care about the bitch at all anymore.
Yeah.
He forgot that he just made love to her.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything to him. And romantic love for people is different from that. Obviously, it's different, and it's massively mediated by notation system, by words, so it doesn't look like love among mammals that way. But if you think about that sexual frenzy that goes along with the new relationship and kind of equate that with the dog and heat, it's easy to understand that. And then if you think about the normal progression of a same-sex friendship, that you're good friends with somebody, met this person, we did a few things together, suddenly we found out that we're going fishing all the time. This is the person that I call when I got a flat tire. He called me when he was in the hospital. We're best friends forever. That's a storgic love, and it has no romance, no sex, whatever, but that's an enduring love that could last for decades. It could last your whole life. What you're looking for in the person that you marry is both. You're looking for someone who thrills you sexually all the time, even after that initial conflagration has burned its way out, and now it's down to just a low flame all the time. But that low flame is always there. She's always sexy to you. You're always trying to touch her. You're always trying to lift up her dress to see what's underneath it or whatever. You're always playing little romantic sexual games, just like when you were first involved sexually. I mean, you may not be screwing as much, but that kind of slap and tickle stuff is still going on when you're alone together, when you have the opportunity, when the chance is there. And yet you have that same kind of storgic love that you have for a longtime friend, that you just really love having this person around. I figured out lately what love at first sight is. Right? We hear about love at first sight, and you go, oh, that can't be real. Or you think, oh, no, I've lived it. I know it's real. There's only two opinions on this. It must be true or it can't be true. What love at first sight is you met someone that you were attracted to, that you were instantly attracted to. You had that tingle right away. You both had that tingle for each other right away, and you pursued a relationship, and neither one of you ever screwed it up. And that's why it's love at first sight, because there were no mistakes. When you're in a relationship with someone, a man or a woman, I'm being sexually neutral. When you're in a relationship with someone and that person says, I'm leaving you, and you say, oh, good, ho-hum, dang, darn, oh, really? Please don't. When you don't have any interest whatever, that relationship is over. When the person says, I'm leaving you, and you say, what do I need to change to make you stay? That's the one you're married to. And really, the one that you should be married to, and you're most married to that person when you never get to that point, when you know how you're going to screw up in such a way that it would completely screw up the relationship, and therefore you never do those things. You do the opposite thing instead. You are constantly working to make sure that the relationship is perfect for that other person, because you could never stand to live without her. You never want her to go. And I've been both places in my own marriage. I mean, I talk about my marriage because I have a good marriage, but I've been, 4 years ago, she was ready to leave me. And she was right. She was right. And since then, our marriage has been steadily more perfect. But the reason that it has is because She hit me with a cold, wet fish right upside the head with a cold, wet fish. And I said, what do I need to change? Because I can't stand the thought of living without you. What needs to change to make this work? And it's worked great since then. But that's the real trick. And it's all, it really is always the man. She's always going to, if she wants to be in the relationship, she's always going to do everything and then some.
Mm-hmm.
The men will always note that women file 75% of all divorces. And yeah, there's a power imbalance in divorce court. But the reality, what that really means, that the fact that it's not 50-50, is it means that he is at least 75% inert in this marriage. If he's not happy with the marriage and he's not filing for divorce, what gives? That doesn't make any sense. The fact that she's filing for divorce 75% of the time means that he's not even willing to take that much responsibility for the marriage. He's not even willing to take responsibility for breaking it. But she didn't get married because she wanted to get divorced. Nobody wants to get divorced. And if it got that far, if she has been trying to drive this relationship for so long and failing because she can't drive the relationship because she can't drive him, but she tried and failed for so long that she finally filed for divorce, that is just another example of the man's failure to assert leadership. And I'm not picking on guys. I'm really not. I know you guys feel like you're getting picked on by everyone, but the reality is you are sexually dominant. You are the sexually dominant partner in your relationship. And that doesn't mean dictatorially dominant, but it does mean that you have to be the leader. You have to be the boss. You have to be the man in charge. And if you're not willing to be the man in charge, then the relationship is going to fail. It's going to wreck.
Yeah, it's interesting you say something. One of the big things with TSL is that we say if you get rejected, there's only two reasons. You didn't assert yourself properly. So, and this is what everybody wants. They want technique. They want the line, the opener, all that sort of stuff. But for whatever reason, whether it's like for sexual or anything social. So it could be for rapport, it could be building a social circle, it could be a sales thing. So you just didn't properly, be yourself. You didn't use the right whatever way to connect you.
You didn't close. You didn't close. You're the closer. You're the salesman. You got to open the transaction and you got to close the transaction. That's part of the leadership. I mean, this is an example of male leadership. Who's going to open the transaction? Who's going to close the transaction? It's always the man. I don't know how homosexuals work this out, but I know in normal heterosexual relationships that if the woman is opening and closing the relationship, this is unbelievably extreme outlier situation. This is a movie. This is fake. It's fiction. Mm-hmm. It's not real. What's real is he's the one who has to live through the song Creep. He has to live through the song Creep in his head before he walks over to her, thinking that she's going to chill him with a glance, that she's just going to freeze him where he stands. He's got to overcome all that fear, all that trepidation. He's got the most potent thing short of death is the rejection of a beautiful woman. I think that's stupid. I think that's ridiculous, but I understand what that guy's going through. My attitude would be, the ones who are worth sleeping with are going to be laying down by the time I get to them. I don't really do that. I'm not promiscuous at all. I'm very monogamous, but that is the case with my wife too. By the time I wanted to sleep with her, we were ready to sleep with each other. I mean, you walk with that attitude. My attitude is if you're adorable from the inside out, if you're beautiful from the inside out, everyone that you want to see it will see it. Everyone that you want to not see it won't see it, and everything will work out fine just by itself. I mean, be yourself. Be true to yourself. Be authentic. Be what you really are. Be everything that you admire and aspire to, everything that you desire. Be all of that from the inside out, and the people that you want to see it will respond to it, and you won't have to do anything except engage. That opening will be easy, closing will be easy, everything will be easy because you're the person that person is responding to, and vice versa, that you're responding to the person who best reflects your values in another person. And you'll see that because if you treasure your values, if you honor your values, if you really pursue your values, you'll see them in other people and it'll shine right through. You'll see it right away.
Well, let me just finish this off. And then there's something else that you said. No, it's good. It's good. Because there's something else that you had said in there that triggered another deal. But yeah, I say that, the only reason why there's only two reasons why you get rejected. And that's, if you weren't yourself. But people think that the technique somehow is more important than yourself. Yourself is the most important thing. But the second reason is if you weren't qualified to talk to each other, right? And this is where I really think everybody in this world can connect if they open themselves up enough. Maybe they're not in the right situation, maybe they're not at the right time, whatever. But if we really look at it, we're more meant to connect than we are to disconnect. We were really born to do that. People talk about all this like caveman shit, like we're afraid and afraid of our lives. No, man, we in order to live, we needed to group up together. That is fundamental. That is more important than anything else. So I think that when you talk about true love, of it, you liked each other and it worked out. Nobody messed it up, man. That's key. And when you are screwing up your relationships, how are you screwing them up? And fuck the blame. Fuck, the fuck that person, all that sort of stuff. Man, you have got to look at yourself. If you're not, then you don't have a relationship with yourself, and your relationships will cycle into just like chaos and all that other sort of stuff. But man, you said a lot of interesting stuff there. This is just a curious question for you, but who is your favorite poet?
Well, Shakespeare. I mean, I would have to say far and away Shakespeare. I'm not as much in love with him as a dramatist as I am with some others. I really like Aeschylus from the Greeks, and this is.
Mm-hmm.
I like Ibsen. I prefer drama to poetry anyway. But
so, what's your favorite play?
This is so hard. Henry V, really, I guess.
Really?
And I
Okay.
quoted from it twice here. Once more unto the breach, we few, we happy through. That's from the Christmas Day speech. That's the one that you hear all the time. It's a great warfare speech. So when people are arguing for war, the St. Christmas Day speech comes up. This is a real good example, frankly, the warfare speeches of how poetry is used to motivate men. That kind of crap never works on women. Love poetry works on women. She walks in beauty like the night.
That is a good point.
Yeah,
I mean, I grew up in theater. I worked professionally as a light designer for a long time, but I've been in like 60 plays and never did Henry V, but did a bunch of Shakespeare and all that sort of stuff. So it's interesting because you speak with that ebb and flow of delivery. It's a trip.
I've been thinking about meter lately. I find myself answering my wife in couplets a lot. This is one of the things that it's in Hamlet or somewhere. Much ado about nothing. I can't remember. But just as an aside, a character says, "You might have rhymed," and I just think it's so wonderful because it's Shakespeare telling you about the world that he lived in. That it was such a commonplace thing for people, at least of that social class, to talk to each other in rhyme, that when somebody doesn't, the other character says, "You might have rhymed. You could have at least taken the trouble to make it poetic." Now I find myself talking in couplets to my wife all the time, and it becomes real easy to me. It does come real easy to me, but I think the world of Shakespeare. I really like Byron. I like a whole lot of Tennyson, like Odysseus, Ulysses from Tennyson. That which we are, we are. We are not now what we were. I just like that idea that I'm going to keep fighting no matter what. That no matter how much I might be weakened by the last battle, nevertheless I will engage this battle full on. I will fight and win or die, but I won't surrender and I won't do things halfway. And I think that kind of, that's what I said, the path to all true values is paved in poetry, that you kind of put that stuff in your mind and in your heart, and it ends up driving your life. And again, this is a very masculine thing to think in terms of driving your life by ideas, by abstract ideas, is a very masculine thing. It's not the kind of thing that women typically do. And I'm not taking anything away from them. I love them. I love them as people. I love them in the abstract. I love one in particular. But they're really different from us. And that poetry is our job. That writing that poetry and declaiming that poetry to each other and to our women and to our children, and reciting it to ourselves inside our heads to keep ourselves moving toward our values, to keep ourselves moving toward our goals. This is a job that men do for humanity, for their families, but for the human race as such. It's always been men, and I think it always will be men who create poetry.
That's actually something that you brought up at the 21 convention about male poets. And, and you brought up a lot of examples too. Since we're on this, man, let me just say what's so interesting and what's lost. Well, I mean, movie culture, cinema culture is good, but it's so much different than theater. Like theater, the way plays are written and have always and are still written with current modern day playwrights. Of course, not all of them. It's a different style, and there's a different depth to it, which is a very different art form where, man, there's so much humanity in, God, so many plays. Shakespeare, Moliere, any of these guys. I mean, they're just writing, and even all the way to modern day with Kushner and all that sort of stuff. There's just so much that's in it that is not captured in cinema. And I think, like, you seem like you're truly inspired by it. I just know about it because I acted in the stuff, and then you by default become a fan. But at first I
You live
wasn't.
it from the inside out. Acting is a wonderful thing because you live that right
Totally.
from the inside out. You really know how the character feels because you have to be it in order to play it. I
Totally.
think that's great.
It's crazy because that's how, like David Mamet, if you read his words, you will be the character. He could give you no stage direction. I've worked with so many awesome directors that some of the best ones. I mean, everybody has their different ways of directing and being great at it, but some of the best ones just gave you blocking, like where you walk on stage and where you turn, and no like line reading stuff, and every actor hates that, and you would get the character from it, and that's how powerful it's amazing. A good play drives everything. A good piece of literature drives everything. It's kind of like a Hemingway novel. I was always a bad reader, but I used to force myself to read to kind of, try and get up on stuff. And I'd read these Hemingway books, and they didn't make sense to me. Like just reading all the dialogue, I'd get mixed up with who's saying what. And I'd really, really, really try and focus on it. But what he does at the end of his books is it all comes together and ends up in this like kind of massive failure of that he wrote about. But man, it hit you, and because I tried so hard to, get the dialogue or whatever, even though I didn't read it as fluidly as I could have, the meaning of it, the feeling of it came through, and I think that that's lost with communication. I think that it always amazes me when I tell people, man, have a conversation with somebody about what you dream about, and they're like, you can't do that, but yet we're all made to receive that. We're all made to also project it. You're saying that men communicate in different ways, but man, let me tell you, everybody loves a good story. And if you can be a storyteller, I mean, if you could be whatever, Borges, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, any of these people that can speak with your communication and have somebody understand it, if you're passionate about it, if you really believe it, if you really feel it, man, it's a beautiful connection. But I mean, man, I honestly want to say, it's the first time I really think about it in a while. My first relationship with connection definitely came out of art, and definitely came out of reading and theater, and then music as well. Those three things are really, like, they can influence you in some pretty crazy ways. So
Art is the interface between mother tongue and father tongue. So that we have mother tongue, this language that we all use. You're using it all the time. I do too, but you are particularly expressive. You have a really expressive face, and you talk with your hands a lot. This is all like
true.
that smirk that you wear, and this is a part of your father tongue, and this is why you've never had to compete for respect, why you've never had to
I
demand
don't know
respect from
about
anyone.
that.
Really, really seriously, that smirk says "fuck with me, asshole." And it doesn't, and not in a belligerent way, not in a confrontational way, but it just says, go ahead, let's dance, and nobody challenges that. Nobody ever, you wait online at the bank. I haven't been inside of a bank. I can't remember how long it's been. Thank God for electronic banking. But you're waiting online at the bank, and you can see the teller looking at her next window please sign because she wants to go to lunch. She's looking at it. She handles another customer. She looks at it again. She handles another customer. I'm first online. Never happened. She never, never, never picked that thing up while I'm next online. And it's just the same thing. It's not necessarily a smirk for me, but it's just an attitude. It's an attitude that says, you will not fuck with me.
You know
And
what's
I don't have to demand respect because I already have your respect. That's what my
mhm,
attitude says. I already have your respect. I know I have it. It's not a matter
you
of me
know who you
deserving
are.
it. I didn't even have to earn it. You gave it to me. Again, watch dogs when they first come in contact. Two dogs who've never seen each other. Watch them when they first come in contact, and it's about a quarter of a second. You really have to watch right away when they first see each other, and one will shrink. And that will be the negotiation of the dominance issue right there. They will have negotiated it in a quarter of a second, and it will never be an issue again. And it's the same thing. That attitude, standing on line at the bank or at the supermarket or whatever, somebody's going to get fucked with. It's not going to be you. You know, you already know that somebody's going to get delayed. Somebody's going to have to wait, but it's not going to be you because you just carry yourself with that attitude that you're not going to make me wait. I'm going to win. Whoever else loses, I'm going to win. I forget how we got here.
No, but you actually bring up a lot of stuff. I want to get to monogamy stuff, but first
Okay.
let's go with this dominance stuff. Monogamy is easy to remember. We can put that on the back burner. But
Okay.
I think, man, people, like, again, I brought up, people reach for different identities to express themselves because they don't have their identity. You're saying like, well, hey, I got my respect because I know I'm me. I don't have to be anybody else. I can be myself. And you're either going to accept it or you're not, right? And if you're not, then it's not going to be like a communication. It's a waste of time.
My attitude is dang. If you're not, dang. I don't care.
So I think like people don't know how to be dominant, and or fuck, man, because you don't have to be dominant. You need to be dominant for yourself. Yeah.
You just need to be assertive. You just need to assert yourself. And really, practically speaking, if you're not elbowing your way forward, you're going to be elbowed backward. If you're tired of being elbowed backward, you stick your elbows out. That's the way it works. This is one of the complaints that women make is that I want to be treated as an equal and you're not giving me the respect of an equal. No, if you're an equal, you don't have to be given respect. Children have to be given things. Adults take what they want. And adult males, better believe they take what they want. And if you're complaining that you're not getting your share of the pizza, it's because you're not grabbing your share of the pizza. If you want to be treated like a man, you have to grow a pair. And it doesn't have to be a real pair, but you have to have virtual balls, imaginary balls, to elbow your way into that conversation, or else you're going to be elbowed back into the corner. That's the way it works. That's the way. Yeah. And if you wanted to be treated as an equal with men, then you've got to compete in the conversation, compete in the marketplace, compete in the game, compete in the hurly-burly the way men compete. And if men have to make special dispensations for you, then you're a girl or a child or a cripple. Which is it?
Well, what's interesting is I think men and women capable of doing the same things. I mean, I don't even know if you could say you could prove that because everything gets all out of whack when people do that. When we go for equality, and let me tell you what I mean, equality is a man-made determination. In nature, you don't need a balance. In nature, it's not like, oh, well, there's a man, there's a woman, okay, there's nothing in balance, but everything works because it can come together. And it's like people need to realize, this is big time with the whole sexual life stuff, is that you need to realize what's of nature is of nature. And then there's culture and personal identity, or that's how we see stuff. And then to work backwards, we discover ourselves, engage with culture and society. And then we can find out what our natural whatevers are, sexual urges, inclinations. But nature is the only absolute there. And it doesn't need balance. It doesn't need accountability. It doesn't need any of these things. That's what culture needs in order to make its specific voicing of culture, our culture, not all cultures, to say what works. And so people fight for equality. And this was one thing that, maybe I read it wrong with the that Walsh article, but it's like, well, what if men lived by the same standard, or what if women had to live by the same standard, or something like that? That's a comparison, but neither one of them's right. It's kind of like if you say, like it would be more or less just to make a point, like, there's higher suicide rates for men, statistically much higher. And especially when we get into adolescence to adulthood, it's just far.
And then watch at divorce time, and that happens at all ages. But man kills self, man kills wife, self, man kills wife, kid, self. This always means family court. It always means family court. And that's what you need to read in the story. Adult males killing themselves, it's always family court. And that you read down to the 27th paragraph in the story, and then you'll find out what's really going on. Yeah. But it's not just the suicide, it's the destruction of his life.
Totally. And
sorry, go ahead.
Well, the thing is like we could look at that comparison, and that's only a point. But the real answer is going to come into play, whereas men learn to be men and respect themselves. And I think the one thing that we could say, I mean, you can't blame culture because you're never going to get anywhere. All that we can say is like, how are we going to be more responsible for ourselves? Our culture's fucked up. It has a misrepresentation of men and feminism. It needed that to balance some stuff out. But, the holding on to it, to bring a female balance back into power, let's say legally it was all fucked up in the, before the 80s, and before then, to bring it back into balance, there was stuff that needed to be done. But that balance's point, or the maintaining of that balance, now hurts us and screws everything up by saying things need to be this way. Well, men need to be sexual in this way. Men need to work in this way. If you don't see women in this way, you're fucked up. Man, here's what you need to do. I have my relationship with Maria. That is based on us. That is it. We make the fucking rules. I don't fucking need you to tell me how to have a relationship, have sex, or treat each other. I need her. And that's it. And that's the most important thing. If I don't have her, that hurts. That's bad. That's not what I want. That's when I start, getting all screwed up within myself. But I do not need the whatever, men's movement, women's movement, economy to define what the fuck I'm doing with my life. And that is such a problem. People do not own themselves.
That's why what self-adoration is all about is living from the inside out. The universe is everything that exists, and everything that exists is fundamentally meaningless in your life. There are almost nothing in the universe matters to you. And the few things that matter, almost none of them really matter very much. The only things that really matter to you are you, your loved ones, and the things that you have embraced by bringing them into your life. Your dogs, your house, your car, your job, your ideas. But it's really almost nothing in the context of the universe. And if you think about the universe as being something out there that's constantly happening to you, the universe is always happening to you, this is an error. It's not true. The universe of your experience starts in here and emanates outward.
Totally, yeah.
Everything that matters in your life starts in here and is the result of action that you initiated within here.
Absolutely,
if you initiated the right actions, then the things you wanted to have happen to you. If you initiated the wrong actions, then things that you didn't want to have happen to you. But the universe did not happen to you. You happened to you. And if you're not happy with the way you've been happening in the past, change your ideas. Everything is here. Everything that matters is here. Yes, you can get hit by a truck. Yes, you can get hit by lightning. Yes, you could. Yes, the Earth could get hit by an asteroid. All of the stupid things that people pretend are important in order to avoid concentrating on the things that really are important. But everything that really is important starts in here.
That is that's awesome. I mean, that is.
Go to my church. Go to my church. This was the substance of my sermon Sunday morning. Church of Splendor on Spreecast right now. I think I may move it to Google, but
man, people should go to that. And I think there's a need for it. I think you had posted, there's a need for this. Steve, check this out. Share this with your people. People need to see this, and it's true. And it's so cool. I talk about this with pretty much anybody that's on the level. Sometimes you meet people, and they got a lot of stuff to say, but they're not quite there yet. And then there's people that are there, and it's just relaxed. It's fucking good. It's expression, and it's awesome. But man, I first saw it in sex. Sex is of nature. Okay, it's what happens. We're not going to change it, right? I don't know how the fuck it works. Like, guys do this one thing, girls do this one thing, and society can be another thing, whatever. But it's like it is what it is, man. And there could be hundreds of different faces to it. Even for me personally. I could like rough sex, I could like mellow sex, I could make love, yada, yada, yada. But then we get into culture and we build that definition, and that is what we think sex is. And when we step outside of it, we think we're alone, we isolate, we fuck ourselves up, yada, yada, yada. And my sex life started out with choices that weren't so favorable that not even I made. And then, there was a lot of just bad stuff, to which I took those things, those bad experiences, and empowered that more than myself. So rather than having a healthy sex life, and I didn't know any better because there weren't enough outlets for me, I punched the clock of abuse. I punched the clock. I went to go work for something that was in my past to keep it alive because I didn't really know another way. And so then the only answer is to look within and build within. Man, guys that work with me, do my courses, I've come up with all this like social dynamic stuff that nobody else does. The only person that customizes it, the only person that, whatever, all this great stuff that I could talk about. Here's what changes them. Here's the bottom line of what everybody says who goes through my courses, and we work like a big brotherhood. We're a huge community. Everybody talks. We meet up. We have like fucking 16 hours of calls a week that are just an awesome men's group. If guys get on the activity of meditation or self-exploration, some way, a form of doing that, it could be writing, that could be taking a walk, or it could be being a Zen monk. If they get in an attitude of giving, and expressing who they really are, but doing it without expectation. If a way of being social, saying, hey, this is me, where's you? Let's make friends. Not control, anything like that. Be sexual. Okay, that might sound hard because it's like, hey, I'm not having sex with anybody, but I could be actively having sex with Maria every day and not be sexual, which is not a good thing. But it's where I'm saying, hey, I'm a man, and I like that. I want that. I can be okay with that. Maybe we don't even act on it, but we just feel like a man that wants women. And then we can have a form of gratitude. If they do those 5 things, they change. They get the most effect. Better than the Steve Mayeda, the sexual life, rapport cycling, 6 principles of escalation, all this really cool stuff that I'm proud of. Man, if they just do those 5 things, their life gets better.
That's church. You understand that, right? The 5 things you're talking about, that's church. What you're doing is church. And now I think it's important. I haven't talked about this. I haven't really written about this. Church and theology are 2 different things. Church and God are 2 different things. Church and religion, church and faith, church and the supernatural, these are all 2 different things. There's a wonderful thing that church does for everyone who participates, and that is it reminds you of what you think your values are. I mean, you have to decide what your values are, and your values may be different from the churches or the priests, but just by going back week after week after week, you're reminded of what it is that you're trying to do. Again, the path to every value, every human value, every value worth pursuing, the path to that value is paved with poetry. And your 5 items there are simply bullet points in a poem of how to live your life more appropriately, more authentic, more holy. And it's not enough to go through it once. You go through it with your guys again and again and again, and each one of them goes through it again and again and again. In the marriage ceremony, I used a little snippet of text that I wrote last summer. Why would anyone get married? And I have it printed out. I made it in a graphic that I was able to print out, and I have it printed out, and it's on my mirror in my bathroom. Why would anyone get married? And I'm not going to do it now, but it's just my list of reasons why it's appropriate to get married. And I have it on my mirror in my bathroom, so I'm always thinking about it. If there's, some poem like that, it doesn't have to be a poem, but some idea, some abstract idea that you want to always remind yourself of, put it where you'll always see it. Put it on top of your monitor. Print it out and tape it on the top of your monitor, or put it on your bathroom mirror, or put it on the steering wheel in your car so that you'll see it all the time. You'll always be thinking about it. I like bumper stickers for that reason. I want to do a bumper sticker that is the word thrive with an exclamation point. Just thrive. One word. And a bumper sticker has to be economical. It has to be few words. But I think that's a beautiful poem, maybe the most beautiful poem in human history. Thrive. That's what you should do. Thrive. But those kind of ideas, just having good ideas about moral goodness, about good moral behavior, and then turning them into something that you can teach, and then teaching it again and again and again, because you have to remind yourself. You have to remind yourself of what your virtues are and what you need to do to pursue them. And so, Steve, you got a church.
Yeah. Oh, that's what people say, the Church of Steve or the Church of TSL. They say it all the time, or the cult.
And that's cool, because anybody can come. Catholic, Jewish, atheist, Muslim, doesn't matter. Anybody can come, because whatever else you want to do, you go do it on your own time. But this is what we're doing here. And there's no limit to the number of churches that people could be going to and maybe should be going to. And that's where people who aren't religious kind of lose out, because they don't have that going on in their lives for the most part. They don't have that continuous reminders of good moral behavior, of the values that you're trying to pursue and how you go about it. And that's why I'm starting a church. That's why I started the Church of Splendor, because atheist, agnostic, religious, I really don't care. I don't care what you believe
Right.
away from what I'm talking about, but this is what I'm talking about, and these are the ideas that I think will advance your interests regardless of whatever else you believe. My wife is very, very Christian. I'm an atheist. I'm an
Yeah.
atheist.
Yeah. I think we have the same role.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
gather that your wife's Catholic, but
Yeah.
it is no problem for us, whatever, because we agree about virtue. We agree about what
Absolutely.
virtue is, and so as long as we're both honoring the same virtues, which if we came by two different maps and we arrived at the same place, that's what we wanted to do, was to arrive at the
Hmm.
same place.
Yeah, man, this is great stuff because we joke about the Church of Steve or the cult of TSL or whatever, but man, there is no leader. Like I am the person who founded it, and taking me out of TSL is the big step. I mean, TSL's got about like 8 or 9 hardcore influential people that are just not the spokesman at this moment. And uh, if people were to really be a part of, what the sexual life does, they would see how much more influential those guys are. I mean, it's really a beautiful thing. And I think what's interesting about your idea of church, I mean, I don't call it that, but it's that it's based on little points on a map to have a better expression with yourself in the world and do good, right? I'm not saying that meditation has to happen, giving, being social, being sexual, gratitude. Those are just like guesses that seem to consistently work on this journey of life. But the journey of life is the thing, man. That's the thing you got to have, and the good changes that come from that. And so I really don't know. I'm just a fan, that's really into it that does all this stuff. So it's good stuff.
There's no such thing as bad self-improvement. If you're improving yourself, it's going to have salutary results no matter what. So
Yeah.
press on regardless. That's my attitude. And the same thing, if people want to diminish it or ridicule it or give you a bad time about it, press on regardless. That when someone reacts, it means you're winning. That if you're doing something and it really makes no difference to anyone, then they're not going to react. But if they react, it means you're winning. And if they're reacting negatively, if you're not doing something negative and they're reacting negatively, it's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because they feel wrong about what you're doing. Don't worry about it. Just press on regardless. Do your thing. Live your life. Live from the inside out. Make the person that you imagine inside your mind, you have this image inside your mind of you perfected. The way that you are when you are completed, perfected, burnished, glowing, when you are the heroic being that you've always imagined yourself since you were 4 years old. You've always imagined yourself as this heroic being. And I think you should be that person. Be that person from the inside out. And you can't do it all every day, and you may not get it as perfect as you can imagine it. But if you move incrementally, step by step, if you move in that direction, if you move toward that image of yourself, if you manifest that in your behavior, in the things that you do, if you manifest that person in the things that you do, every day from now on will be better. And eventually things will be so much better that you can't imagine how they could get any better. You'll be standing there on the hearth like your dad was, looking like there couldn't be anything wrong with the world. Nothing could possibly be better.
You
Why
know,
wouldn't you want to feel that way?
you say something interesting, and I bring this up a lot when, especially really working with anybody close to me, whether it's people in my groups, Maria, personal friends, is that when you know who you are, the world can fall apart. We were talking about integrity at Anthony's wedding. All the stuff inside of you, you have a relationship with it. It doesn't matter what's going on with the world around you. I mean, it'll suck. You know, you get sued, a death in the family, like horrible stuff, good stuff. But I'm talking about good and bad. That it doesn't change who you are. And when you have a group, when you have yourself, then you have a group of people that are also focused on that. Man, I really, I have faith. I might not know how to walk through something, but when bad stuff happens, I know I'll live. I know I have a chance of being happy. I know I have a chance of being a being an expression of myself. And it's not dependent upon all this outside world shit. It's that I take care of my inside stuff, and shit works out pretty good.
Right.
May not for you, may not look that way, but man, for me, it's great. And that's the only thing people should be selling. There's this whole culture now of self-help that people need and lack of identity, and it's a bummer, man, because the relationship is with you. It's so fucking important. And if you don't have that, you're just always going to be searching. I was just at this marketing thing, which is really cool, and which is an insight of mine. Yeah, is that when I was 5, I realized money isn't going to make you happy. But then it took me about 30 years from that to realize that if you did make money, it didn't mean you were unhappy. And because I see a lot of examples of people who are unhappy who have money, and I'm like, oh fuck. And so it was like, it's just kind of this flip in my head that took a long time to happen. But where I don't see it is with sex. Like I could have as much sex as I want, I'm going to be happy. But you hear society even saying like, well, if you have a lot of promiscuity or sex in these ways, you're going to be unhappy. I was like, fuck that, man. I believe this is possible, and found a way, and then eventually.
But there are different currencies in that transaction, and that's why you were trading in a different currency than
Sure.
you are now. And
Sure.
so you're getting a different thing out of the experience because you're trading in that different currency.
But man, I heard this. There's one marketer that I've always respected in a very interesting way. The guy's name is Frank Kern. I just saw him speak today, and for years I've watched this guy's videos, and it was cool because I got to see him speak. And he said something which is so true. He said a lot of things which were very awesome. Again, good teacher, expert. It relates to all things. But he goes, man, guys sign up for my thing, and they think that if they do 50% and want to slack, and they do half of what I say, half of whatever they want to do, they're gonna fuck up. If they do 80%, same thing. If they do 90%, you gotta really invest in the situation. So he's talking about selling something. And he goes, and the thing that happens with the guys that only want to do the 50% stuff or just invest half of themselves, and this is like a lesson for life. You invest half of yourself. You have your meaning only speaking at 50%. He's like, those are the guys that it doesn't work. They blame their whole life's failures on me and take out all their hate on something. And man, it's just such a consistent thing that I see with sex and male identity and self-improvement. Because when I say you got to look at that, so whenever anybody works with me, it's like identity workbook, which is like this thing where you write about yourself and explore yourself, and then we learn to communicate that. That's where we all start, and what makes this process of TSL so unique. But man, when they don't do that and they run from it, and then it doesn't work for them, they will engage in a fury of like, fuck you, you're this horrible person, da 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 da. But they'll never do it to your face. And they will never do it they will do everything in the background, but never to your face. Man, I've been there. I am somebody that has existed and lived in resentment and blame. And Jesus Christ, what a horrible man.
See, that's to avoid doing anything, though. See, that's the thing. That kind of stuff, stewing, steaming, worrying, dreading, all kinds of negative emotions, these are all illusions of activity that you engage in order to convince yourself that you're doing something when you're actually doing nothing. Then when you're doing something, something changes outside your body. If nothing is changing outside your body, you're not doing anything. Other than thinking, you're not doing anything. But that kind of thinking, that kind of negative steaming, stewing. Think about the guy. I made a movie called The Runaway Minivan. So husbands are watching.
I watched it.
Yeah, fathers are watching this, want to know more about what I'm talking about. Think about the guy who let go of the steering wheel in the runaway minivan. What does he have to say about his ex-wife? Who's at fault for the destruction of that marriage? The guy who let go of the wheel. Who does he blame? Her. And I'm not saying that she doesn't have any blame in the matter. I'm sure she does. But the guy who crashed the vehicle is the one who let go of the steering wheel. And that's exactly what you're talking about here, that if people are pissing and moaning that I didn't follow through and therefore I failed and therefore it's somebody else's fault, that's ridiculous. The key element of that story is I didn't follow through. I knew what I should have done and I didn't do it. Who's at fault? I am.
Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned those things. We have this new workbook that we're drafting out that's called the Resistance Workbook, but it's where we start to coin something that we've talked about a lot on our calls on the church, so to speak. But it's that we are looking at antisocial behavior. So one of the old school TSL things was that if you judge something, if you can fully express yourself and people can see you, then they can't judge you. And where that came from is we noticed that when we were judging something, we automatically divided ourselves. But then as soon as we were like unified with it, we stopped judging it, right? And you can make a choice. Choice is different, but judgment is this thing where we're kind of afraid of it and we're not connecting with it. So then that took off into like resentment, blame, frustration of these things that I do every day. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm a fucking human being that's living in society, where those cause antisocial behavior. And if we continue, we'll become an antisocial persona. An antisocial persona is somebody that truly hates being social. And so it's really a tough thing that we got to run from, because if we're really born to be social and born to be sexual, that means we are born to connect, to feel good, to feel love, to feel compassion, that we don't need to really be told it, that if we walk that path, we can do it. Of course, some guidance is good, but in our natural state, if we're just human beings just, put somewhere, we'd end up being good. It's just we got all densely packed, a lot of stuff going on. We need identity, we need individuality, it's not there. And then you get this stuff which never existed, addiction, these psychological disorders that were not as prominent, or if they did happen, the community was able to, not alienate somebody or not have somebody feel the death grip of isolation. So cool stuff, man. Jesus Christ. Let's tackle monogamy, because when did that change for you?
What do you mean? I've always been monogamous. I've always been
And
interested. I've always been one man, one woman. I have a very small number of relationships in my life. I'm a divorced man. Believe me, I know divorce from the inside and custody and all of that crap. But no, I mean, high school girlfriend, college girlfriend, after college girlfriend, married once, it failed, and married again. I don't have a long trail of women behind me, which
no, but this is massive.
It's okay. I don't miss it.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily asking that. In your message, it's that it's so much about the beauty of unifying with one woman, which I'm not saying is the only way, but
it's the way we're made, the way that human beings are made. I believe that, as I say, the man is sexually dominant in the relationship, the woman is sexually submissive. And again, it's all about penetration, frankly, at that point. It's easy to see why this must be so. There's somebody who's got to stick something in. The one who's sticking something in is the one who's initiating action. That's the leader. The person who's initiating the action is the leader. But that relationship, one man, one woman, one household, that is ubiquitous in human civilizations, that we can look at everywhere people live today. And to the extent that there's any kind of polyamory going on at all, it's almost nothing. I mean, it's total outlier behavior, substantially less than 1% of the population. Mm-hmm. And this is true in terms of human civilizations throughout history, and looking at the 500 or so non-Western civilizations that still exist on the earth, that we find this pattern again and again and again. There are variations, there are deviations from it. For instance, children living with mom and her brothers rather than with mom and dad, things like that. These are very, very rare. Again, these are outliers. That if you look at the gross population of human beings over the course of human history, we have always lived monogamously. This is the way that we form our relationships. And to speak of what's natural for human beings and what's man-made is very, very, very difficult because of father tongue. Because as soon as we get to notation systems, we immediately start changing things.
Totally.
That whatever was,
it has to be spoken through and unnatural.
Yeah, and we understand it, and maybe it's better, maybe it's worse, but it's going to be different. Whereas in nature, there are no alternatives because the animals can't consider alternatives. There are, despite what the homosexual lobby wants to say, there really are no homosexual animals. Certainly there are no vegetarian cats. That you can find people who insist that they're vegetarians or vegans. Vegans perish if they don't eat meat, but they can go a good solid 3, 4, 5 years before they die of malnutrition. But you'll never find a vegan cat because a cat can't consider alternatives. A human being can consider alternatives and maybe make the wrong choice, but a human being can make a conscious choice. This is what father tongue means. This is what it means to reason in notation systems, is the ability to consider among all possible alternatives and to make an informed choice, to choose by free will. This is all baked in the cake. It's all natural to us. And that style of organizing our romantic relationships and our families is also kind of baked in the cake. It's the way that we're made. And my attitude toward nature is embrace it. do not rebel against it. Do not
Right.
insist that you can not eat animal protein, not eat any sort of meat or dairy, and still survive as a human being. As a Homo sapien, you can't. Your nature does not permit it. And in the same respect, to embrace monogamy and to say if this is the way that we are most likely to flourish, the way that we're most likely to thrive, then embrace it and make it part of your philosophy, make it part of your value system. Monogamy is very high in my value system, obviously, but the storgic romantic relationship between human beings is so much stronger than any relationship, any other relationship that we can find anywhere. Obviously, much stronger than animals can have, because again, animals can't consider in the abstract what it is they're doing. They can't honor their choices. They can't embrace their choices. They can't reinforce their choices and make them stronger and better, because they don't know that they're making those choices. They're just making them. But even among human relationships, that, liking relationships or friendships or ludic love, like, chasing the poontang, that's ludic love. That's playful love. That's love for play. It's not love forever. All of those relationships can be good and they can be very worthwhile, especially, at the appropriate age. But when you get to the point where you're looking to commit your life to a place, to a home, to a family, to a career, to an idea, that this is the way my life is going to be. This is the way I want to set up my circumstances. And obviously things can change, and they will change. They'll change like dreams. But this is the course I'm setting for myself. When you say that, from now to the end of my life, this is the course I want to travel, the way that you do that is with a monogamous relationship. You find someone that you can't stand, you can't bear to live without, and you make her your own. And then you pursue her every day because you don't ever want to chase her away.
So this is my take on it all, which
Okay.
I'm in agreement with you. And this again, where it's like differences. If more people spoke and connected, I think that they would connect, or they just come to a agreement of whatever they believed, right? But monogamy in society, whatever. I believe in my relationship with my woman. That's what I believe in. And we both, I mean, we were both pretty, pretty sexual people, and we were like, look, we don't want to risk it with anybody else. We just want each other, and that's it. And I'm done with those sorts of things. And for the rest of your life, it's a hard thing to make, but I'm willing to do it every day that I wake up, and that's good enough for me. And man, that's the way I see it right now. But I think what's important for people to look at is they need to look at themselves. They need to look at how they fit in with society, and they need to look at the many different examples. You said that there were a lot of people who experienced love and sex in different ways. And Western culture is so predominant of how it's done. And Western culture is kind of like everything, right? And it's put it's put itself into everybody's brain and way of life, and we're not going to get around that. Why fight it? We're going to have to live within it and maybe change within it if we have a problem by changing ourselves first, yada yada yada. But man, when you look at anthropology and how people have lived, and when you look at different cultures that may exist today, the bond between people and being close is undeniable. Whether it goes in this like Christian form of monogamy or American or European or whatever people rebel against, people coming together and wanting to be together for long periods of time to sustain life, let's face it, we have emotions and they mean a lot to us, of course, in our societal world or whatever, but man, of nature, we were given emotions to feel. They don't make sense. It's like you can
This
be
is
like,
what mother tongue is. This is what mother tongue is the expression of emotion. That's what it is. And that's why it's common to all organisms. That's why you know what your dog is thinking, why your dog knows what you're thinking. When you're lecturing your dog in words, the dog can't understand the words. How does he understand what you're saying? Because he sees your mother tongue. He knows what it means. And all human beings, mother tongue, human facial expressions, human body language is
totally.
universal.
Yeah,
All cultures, all
absolutely.
ages, including babies, that you
Yeah.
can interpret babies' facial expressions and get it exactly right.
Well, that's actually a lot of the facial expression. Everybody talks about all this Paul Ekman stuff, but where a lot of that came from was observing I think it was his mentor actually observing his baby's facial expressions and how natural and how it before that baby was capable of having emotions, it did, or learning them. It was so, clean slate. But man, if people live a life without connection or denying that connection is possible and somehow resisting that, that is the most antisocial of all that is like the cherished thing. That is the enemy of TSL, of what I really believe in and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know the right way, of course what I disagree with is the regulation of a relationship. That's not good. It's got to come down to you. It's got to come down to you and that other person. But the
It's
problem
Apollos.
is
Your relationship is a polis. Like the Greek idea of Apollos. Apollos is a community, and a community is
totally, yeah,
composed of its members, and your family is composed of the members of your family, including the dogs.
yeah,
Um, these are the members of your family, and everybody kind of has a say in how things are going to be regulated. And eventually, if there's a deciding vote that needs to be taken, it might be yours, it might be Maria's, depending on the circumstance. But
totally,
your
absolutely.
family is a polis, and you work it out. And the only time that anybody outside of your family even needs to take any consideration of what's going on in it is if you're trying to kill each other or you're burning something down. But if
Yeah,
you guys are working it out, it really doesn't matter. I mean,
yeah,
even if it's kind of verbally abusive or even physically abusive or otherwise ugly in your opinion, if you really don't care for this marriage, then stop going to dinner over there. But if they are happy with it, if they're satisfied with it, if they're working it out and neither one of them is killing each other or getting a divorce, it's none of your damn business.
yeah. As long
This
as
is
there's
their house.
communication, it's all good,
Well,
you know.
even if there isn't, it's their business, but they'll work it out one way or another. And one of the best things you can do for an unhappy couple is leave them alone, because half of all unhappy couples work it out and stay married. The
Totally.
other half get divorced, but the other
Yeah,
half work it out. 2 or 3 years later, they're lovey-dovey, everything's fine.
yeah.
If you can't help, then don't hurt. Leave them alone. So, certainly, do not advise the dissolution of the marriage. Do not advise if they need a divorce counselor, let them pay for one. Don't you be
Hmm.
a volunteer divorce counselor. Don't you volunteer to deprive those children of their parents.
No, true
That's too
stuff.
much shooting for me. I typically don't do much shooting, but that's
No, but it's good stuff, man. I thought that was great. We're at like the 90-minute mark here, so we should
let
probably
them
wrap
let
it
them
up.
go. Let them off the hook. They're bored.
Yeah, yeah, but no, man, this is some like bomb stuff. This is some good stuff. This is this saturated, rich. I mean, like 20 different things you talked about that are little slices of life that I mean, these are my favorite things because I know
It's
when
all
I
one thing. It's
yeah,
all one thing.
totally.
It's all one thing.
It's all one.
Because it's all. This is the only thing there is. The only real thing there is in your life is this. Everything else is there. It's real. It's genuine. It's actual. But the only thing that you can experience like this is this. There's nothing else you can experience like that. And everything else is an extension of this. It's all one thing. It's all you. The whole universe of your experience is you. It's all one thing. And so you talk about 20 different little things, but they're all really the same thing. It's all about loving yourself, living your life from the inside out, being adorable to yourself, being admirable to yourself. And if you do that, all the other things that you do will be perfect because you're perfect. Be perfect.
Man, good
That's
stuff.
ambition. This is moral ambition. Be perfect. As close as you can get. Move toward perfection. An infinite series converges. Eventually, you'll be close enough that you won't worry about it so much anymore. But as long as you're worried about the imperfections in your life, remove them. Be perfect.
Man, selfadoration.com. What else you got to say before we close it out?
Watch for the Church of Splendor. You can look for it at selfadoration.com because I did it at Spreecast, but the audio was terrible. And so I may try it on Google this week. But I'm building a church called the Church of Splendor. If you want to be involved, be involved. If you're local to Phoenix, I really need to hear from you. If you have a bar in Phoenix, I want to do this Saturday afternoons from 4 to 6 in a bar. I want a church in a bar, but Saturday afternoon,
Pretty
because
cool.
what better time to remind people about moral goodness and how to choose admirably when they're just about to go out into the world and maybe make a lifelong mistake. It's a real good time to do it. I mean, it doesn't mean you don't have to go have fun. Absolutely have fun, but have fun that when you wake up tomorrow, you don't have to say, "What the hell did I do?"
Oh,
But I want
I've had
to
a
do
lot
that
of
way.
mornings like that.
Uh, have fewer. Um, These are the ones to be. Well, if it's genuine regrets, if you're saying what the hell did I do and you're celebrating it, then that's okay. But avoid regret. I mean, that's a real good rule of thumb. Avoid regret. But I want to do this in a church in Phoenix on Saturday afternoons from 4 to 6. But I would love to do it in bars all over the country. I mean, I want to talk anywhere I can talk. I want to talk. If you can make an opportunity for me to talk, I want to talk. Have me come. I'll come. I'll talk. And I can talk. Believe me, I can talk.
We will have many
I want to
more
do that.
opportunities.
And here's what I'm saying is
for
I want to
you.
do this in Austin. I want to put come to Austin and find some bar to do this, and then we will simulcast it wherever I happen to be any week. I want to simulcast church in bars every Saturday afternoon all over the country. We will have the Church of Splendor, and if you want to be involved, come and be involved. Anything you want to do, I'm all for it. And you too, Steve. And if you want to have me back and talk, or if you want to have me come and talk to your group, I would love to do it. I think I'm on the side of anyone who is acting for self-improvement. If you're acting to improve your own life or to help other people learn how to improve their lives, then I'm on your team and I want to help. So,
man, let me just give some words of encouragement. You need to do this because, one, I believe you should, but two, on Sunday we have a call that starts off at noon Central Time, and I started off, go about 2 hours. Somebody else jumps on. We go till about midnight. So just 12 hours, there's dudes on there talking about whatever. And we could be talking about like, man, I just got dumped. Man, I'm trying this new weight loss thing. It's not working. Or, oh, it's just awesome. I got a new job. I'm working this. Or, I just had sex with a bunch of people, whatever it is. But we just, the only rule is we don't share anything that's been on the call, that's personal. We don't... If we say something, we can say whatever. We can say, fuck this, I hate this program, this sucks. But we should be open to advice from other people. But man, as soon as I did that, boom, everybody, it was great. It's awesome. It's the most popular call. I mean, I have about an alumni of 200 people, about 40 people show up on that call, just rotating in and out throughout the day. And Saturday, it can work. You should make that happen. I'll be on it.
Cool. Excellent.
All right, man. I'm out of here. Self-Adoration.com. I'm an even bigger fan of you after today.
Likewise. Bless you, sir. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, man, it was a pleasure. All right, man. Ciao for now.